Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. So joining me this week, as always, it's my own little skirmisher. It's Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Skirmish away.
That's right. It's skirmish time all day today. Also joining us this week for the first time, we're excited to have him. It's Moarhammer. Rob, how you doing, buddy?
Very well. How are you?
Fantastic, sir. We are glad to have you on.
Rob, I just have to ask, what time is it there for you?
It is 2:10.
That's some dedication right there, friends.
Yes, it is. I appreciate you staying up very late. That was very nice of you. If I would have, I forgot.
Think of it as early.
There you go. I will be honest, and I forgot that you were on UK time when I was like flying around scheduling everything. And I said, yeah, normal 9 o'clock. And then then later on, I was like, oh, well, he said yes. So, okay. So thank you for staying up late. It's much appreciated.
And then Vince realizes he's a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Whoops.
It's fine.
So we're deeply appreciative. All right. So, we're going to, as I said, we're going to be talking about Skirmish today. And by the way, for those of you who don't know Moarhammer, as I've said many times before, what are you doing with your life? His channel, that link is going to be down in the description. Go there, watch his stuff. Okay. Subscribe, do it. You're going to enjoy it. I promise. All right. But first, let's start with the news. Tommy, what do you got?
Not a lot. No. So we have Warhammer Skirmish. Obviously, this is the topic of the night, and it is coming to us hot and heavy this weekend for pre-order. As some of you who follow my Twitter know, I have leaked out. I was contacted about the details of what this release is for this forthcoming weekend. Actually, the next 2 weeks. So, and so I have all the details up there. Otherwise, you get to find them out now. So we have the Skirmish book dropping, which is what they talked about today on the live feed. It's £6 or 10
£6, did you say?
£6. Like
Six.
Not the book. Not the book is like £6 heavy. It's like £6 or whatever you guys call it.
I can't afford not to buy that.
Yes. It's
6
10
GBP.
Yes. It's 10 USD. $10. Folks, this is a combo at Arby's.
That's Well, one, Arby's is overpriced. But this show isn't where we review and talk about how horrible Arby's is, which, by the way, it's horrible. But
you're out of your mind.
But what this show is saying, but I don't disagree with your pricing. In fact, it's cheaper than a combo at Arby's. Let's be really fair here. So yes, I'm with that.
I don't know what Arby's is.
It's a fast food restaurant, cheaper than a burger and fries in America. There you go. How about that?
Fine.
Okay.
Sorry, hold on. Burger and chips. There we go. All right, now I got it.
So we have a book.
Don't you guys only have chips with fish?
No, we put them with everything. Literally everything.
That's true.
I've had fish and chips in the US, but I've never had chips with anything else. It's always fries.
Well, is there a difference? Isn't it just aren't chips your fries?
He's making a joke, Vince.
Yeah.
I know it's like way over your head.
No, I'm clearly lost.
He's poking at you.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's an important part.
It's funny, Rob. Yes, exactly. Yes, it's funny how we've appropriated your language for just fish and chips. Okay. So the book is dropping for pre-order this week, $10. It's gonna skirmish, or let me go to the train, or no, let's go to skirmish boxes first. 4 skirmish boxes are dropping this weekend. It's 65 USD. I believe it's £40. And the 4 factions that those boxes are dropping with is a Stormcast box, a Khorne Bloodbound box, a Flesh Eater Court box, and an Iron Jaws box. Right. Most of the discounts are ranging, if you were to buy the individual pieces, between like a 30 and 40% discount on the models. For the Stormcast Warband, it's going to be 2 Retributors, 3 Liberators, 3 Prosecutors, and a Knight Questor. And they're saying that the Liberators and Retributors, I think, are the snap fit ones. For the Khorne Bloodbound, it's 5 Wrathmongers, 3 Blood Warriors. I think those 3 Blood Warriors are the snap to fit ones, and then an Executioner with a spear. And then the ones that are actually significant are the Flesh Eater Court box, which is 20 Crypt Ghouls and 3 Crypt Flayers. So you're just getting 2 complete model boxes for 65. And then the other one, which is the one that I'm probably going to buy on release, which is the Iron Jaws, which is 5 Brutes, 10 Ard Boys, and the Shaman for $65.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
That's like the Brutes themselves in the US, I think, are 55 or 60. And so, like, for the price of a Brute box, you're getting an extra Shaman and 10 Ard Boys. So I'm going to buy that one. Because I have a boxed collection of Iron Jaws on the shelf that are just going to continue to sit there. And this will round those out, give me a second Shaman. So, yeah, tell me about it, Kenny. Man, how awesome would a Fire Slayer box be? Holy, like, I would love me a Fire Slayer box. Oh.
So Rob, what if you could put together your dream skirmish box? Any alliance, whatever you want. What's in it? What like, you know, even if you don't have to give me the exact figs, but what's it at? What's it, you know, the combination of that kind of thing?
Well, at the moment, I'm doing Zinch, so it has to be Zinch.
All right. Demons, mortals, archonites, where you at?
Like, this is an easy one, right?
Okay.
Like, do Zangor, Skyfires, and a
9
Shaman.
Skyfires, that's all you want, right?
No. You do the Zangor box. You do a box of Zangor, a box of Skyfires, and the Zangor Shaman. Like the all Zangor. Like that's the low hanging fruit, Vince, for a skirmish box like that.
That seems underwhelming. Maybe it's because I already have a bunch of Zangor and Skyfires and Shamans. Maybe I'm not as excited about that one. But I will. Go ahead, Rob.
What about a Herald on Burning Chariot and then 3 Burning Chariots?
Nice. Throw in 10 pink horrors just to make sure. Like, why not? Round it out. Just so you got some little dudes running around. Yeah.
That sounds like a getting started box. Like, you're
Sounds
real
fun.
close. You're real close to the actual Demons of Zinch getting started box at that point. So, yeah. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy the Iron Jaws one because it gives me puts me at the number of Brutes that I wanted anyways. I don't really need more Ard Boys, but it gives me a second Shaman. Like, I don't see any reason not to. And even, like, I could easily paint up like an Iron Jaws small warband pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be honest. That's the exciting thing about this. Like, number one thing I'm most interested in, I saw that Iron Jaws box, and I was like, I could get that. Like, I honestly thought, like, I have no interest in orcs or in general.
Like, I can do a skirmish warband.
I can do a skirmish warband. That's no problem. I saw that. I was like, I could pick that up. That seems like a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah,
I was
40% off.
Yeah, I was like, cool, I'll have some orcs. Like, why not? Because that's even before, like, that's retail. So assumingly you could get it, like, if it's 65 retail, assumingly you could get it at your stores for the other 15%, right? If
like Mini Stomp, for example, who I buy all my stuff from. I would highly encourage you guys in the US to check him out. He's super reliable. So all of those Caradron that you guys saw on my shelf on my Twitter feed all got shipped from him. He is cool dude.
Yeah, so like that Iron Jaws one, I'll be honest, it tempts me because I like that Shaman. The Brutes seem like
they're
fun
great
things.
sculpts. Like, all that's fun sculpts. Like, like
I have no interest in a whole army, right? Like,
right.
A whole army is just like, no, I'm not interested in painting that much orcs. I find them boring. But just doing a small skirmish force like that, sure, man. That's
like a wonderful set of sculpts. Like, they're just it's a nice tight box for what that is. I mean, that's 16 models. Like, that's a good deal.
It's a good, like, couple week project.
Yeah.
Right. To just like play around with. Yeah, exactly. You're not in like, oh, well, this is what I'm doing for the next 3 to 6 months or whatever. Right. And because it's just such a bigger commitment to that. So I think that's the thing I'm most excited about with this. I want to see more boxes. I want to see weird boxes. Like, I want to see.
Sorry. I'll be interested to see how the way the renown works out with those boxes, because it seems like having 5 Brutes, a Shaman, and 10 Ard Boys might be quite a large warband. So are you going to get kind of 2 potential warbands out of each box? Is that...
No, because I think the Ard Boys, like, if I were to take a guess, I'm guessing the Ard Boys are probably sitting at 6 to 8 points each.
You think that much? Like,
maybe not.
Two.
Yeah, Glade Guard's 2, but they're double wounds. And higher wound models are going to be significant. So let's say they're 4. Okay, Your shaman's probably 20 points. 20 was the regular that I heard all the casters at when Rob was rattling through them today. So your shaman's probably 15 to 20 points. Your brutes, I'm guessing, are probably 8 points, maybe 8 to 11, somewhere in there. And so you can have some mix of like brutes, your shaman, and Ardboys. And so this gives you some mix of like however many brutes you want to go, you know, for exchanging for Ardboys. Like it seems like, yeah, it seems like it'll be a nice mix. But I agree, it's going to be way over the 50-point starter, like the starter.
Yeah, they're playing 50 points on the stream, so I was interested to see if 50 points is going to kind of a small ballpark figure, and if say 75 or 100 will be a kind of a more regularly used level.
Yeah, like it was just so fascinating to me. Like one of the things, and we'll talk about this in the main segment, like multiple attacks are a really big deal in a Mordheim style game. Like the more attacks you can put out, generally, like that's what wins. And so what was so fascinating to me was like nobody went for like a handful of hard hitters and then a bunch of like 2-point models like goblins or anything like that. Like to me, like obviously I'm thinking strategically, and this is supposed to be narrative and whatever, but to me, like it just seems like there's a bunch of 1- and 2-point models. Like, man, people need to be all over those. You know, just like to do like a solid 40 points and then 10 cheap like chaff models.
Yeah,
just you know, strewn throughout.
Well, let's save the strategy talk for later on in the feature segment.
Sure.
But I know I'm hoping to see some more boxes come for this. I think that these are perfectly fine, make sense as the starting. Cool.
Man, Fire Slayer. Man, Kenny, you got me excited now. Sorry, Kenny putting the things in. Imagine a Fire Slayer box. I can, and it's amazing.
And you know, they covered all the alliances in the initial release, which is good. That's thumbs up. Well done. Now let's see some more.
Like a skeleton box.
Sure.
Like to do like skeletons.
Again,
yeah.
There's like, because we're only talking skirmish, there's 100 ways they could go here. But well, you know, I would love to see some weird elfy boxes coming out of Azer. Like you could do a neat Draconis force or something in a skirmish thing. That's just it. A lot of those smaller forces that you might not be able to build into coherent whole armies right now. Like elves have a lot of these little mini sub factions.
Like Swift Hawk agents might be a really interesting box. With,
but they make super compelling skirmish forces because you only need like 3 things.
Yeah.
Right. Like a hero and 2 types.
Like the chariot, like the Swift Hawk chariot, and you could do some Shadow Warriors. And then maybe some Lothern Seaguard or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like all those little mini forces that we had written off from like a sort of unified army perspective are back on the table. Right.
Yeah. What I didn't see command abilities being fired off today in the feed. It was really interesting. And so I don't know if that's like a thing. Like no one ever mentioned using any of their command abilities during the entire feed. Like now the wizard obviously didn't have a command ability and he was a general, but then the Ghoul King, his would have been a summon maybe. I think his is like,
if he was Flesh Eater Quartz,
he's Flesh Eater Quartz, and so that wouldn't have worked either. You know, they didn't say anything about summoning. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering if even like to what degree command abilities work, or you know, they just didn't weigh into that. Because if those aren't on the table, like if that's not a thing, command abilities aren't, then that opens up tons of options. You know, you have a lot more competitive stuff because then you don't have something like command abilities really weighing you. Anyways, I don't want to get into that aspect of this. All that to say, going up for this week for pre-order are some sweet miniature boxes. I think obviously the Iron Jaws is the best deal, but I mean even that Flesh Eater Court is a great deal. Crypt Players and Crypt Ghouls. Like, if you're running Flesh Eater Courts, you're going to need those things. So.
Yep. All right. So, shall we move on to some Rumor Engine?
Sure. Let's do Rumor. Oh, wait, no. Hold on. So, also going up for pre-order this week, but not delivering the following week, but delivering in 2 weeks, are 2 items.
Okay.
One is a 4x4 mat, a new one, which is titled the... I lost it. I had it here. Which is like the accursed or the Soul Blight battle mat.
Yeah. Because this all takes place in Shadespire, as we'll discuss.
Yeah, the whole event or the whole skirmish game takes place in the ruins of Shadespire. Yeah, and so there's this undead like ruins necropolis type thing, which will be sweet. That's $80 USD. And then finally the Sigmarite Mausoleum, which is also the same price, 80, and it's a double-sized Garden of Moor kit. So if you had previously bought a Garden of Moor, normally they retail in the US for 50, and so you're getting 2 for 80. So that's a solid deal. So, and I over my years have bought basically at least 2 full sizes and painted up 2 full size Garden of Moors. So they are worth it in my opinion. Like, it is a great kit. It's beautiful.
Good terrain set.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to that rumor engine.
All right. So let's share that up.
Yes,
okay. So this one I can't. And Tom, you have not seen this yet.
I haven't. I've been out of the loop.
All right. You were watching Skirmish all day. I understand.
It was. I was watching and taking notes.
No, I appreciate that. So, boom, lion face. Is that coming through okay? Can you see it?
Oh, I can see it.
So it's obviously painted and has been turned black and white.
Why did they? Yeah, I was gonna say, why did they grayscale this?
I reckon it's because it's been painted to not be a lion kind of color.
Exactly, because the only reason you would grayscale it, right, is because the color would give something away. Yeah. Right.
And I actually think that this might be some part of some terrain kit, because if it was, you paint a line like a lion, and you can paint it any color you want, it can still be the same thing it is. But if it was painted like marble or granite or rock, they would have to grayscale it, otherwise it clearly gives it away that it's a piece of scenery rather than a model with a lion.
If it was marble, you'd see the lines, though. You'd see the veins.
Sure.
I agree, though. Obviously, they grayscaled it. I wonder, not to be a broken record here, I wonder if this is simply another Stormcast release. And so hear me out.
No, that's fine. There are 3 current running theories, but go ahead.
Oh, are there?
Yeah.
Well, so let me just get this out. The reason why I say Stormcast release was because if this was a Stormcast release, your ancillary colors here on the edges would probably be gold. And so I'm thinking about like the fur, like the Varangard Hunter guys. And I could see them having like the Lion Ranger style, like lion pelt on the shoulder, because they have the iconography in the armor itself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Anyway, so what are the theories?
All right. Well, let me address the terrain thing first.
Yes.
I don't think it's terrain. I get your guess, and I think you're right. That would be a good way to hide it. It's because, it's because of this. You wouldn't put the whisker dots on terrain. Why would the rocky terrain have whisker dots?
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I didn't spot that.
So certain colors act certain ways when you grayscale them. Okay. So for example, green turns black when you grayscale it. Like, if you want a good example of this, I can link down below the Massive Voodoo article where they take a colored image and then change it to black and white right next to it. Not every color goes grayscale the same. So like, there's no green in this picture. I'll say that, because, unless they then went in and color balanced it in Photoshop, which they could have done. But if they just black and whited it, there's no green in this, or at least the eyes could be green. It would turn this kind of a color. Okay. Now, now to the running theories. Theory the first, Sigmar. Okay, this is the fake for Sigmar himself. Yes, because Sigmar classically does have a big giant lion on his shoulder. I have a pretty good feel. I know that very well because I just converted my own Sigmar and put a big lion on his shoulder off of the art. So that's number one. Theory the second is Lionel Johnson or whatever, I think is his name. I'm probably butchering that, and I apologize. Dark Angels players.
You could see the crease here, like the mold, like the model separation from parts.
Down here, you're saying?
Like, yeah, right here. Yep.
Yeah, sure. So Lionel is the like the Primarch of the Dark Angels, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's been some people who are kind of against that because, like, Lionel doesn't actually wear like fur, or at least not this kind of fur.
But he would be amazing if he did.
Sure. I mean, that who knows what he looks like now if he's coming back. Like that being said, relying on what Lionel looks like in say the Horus Heresy Forge World sculpt isn't exactly fair because he's not. I doubt he was also kept on ice like Guilliman was for 10,000 years. So if he's
that's the point. If you compare the concept of him not wearing a lion to Guilliman's, obviously Guilliman in the Horus Heresy never had the Emperor's sword, nor did he have Mark 8 power armor.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. Like one would assume that, you know, he could be in have a different look, given the fact that 10,000 years have passed since this guy's been walking around or whatever, some very lengthy amount of time. I don't remember when Lionel disappears in the story, but anyways.
What are Dark Angel's colors?
Green, very dark green.
Ooh, yeah,
which is the other point. Like now, that being said, I'm going to talk about this stuff back here in the background in just a minute. The other running thing, obviously, is everybody went White Lions.
Yeah.
Right? Because for obvious reasons. So
which wouldn't be terrible. Like I could see them dropping honestly, I could see them dropping, for example, a skirmish box with White Lions, with just White Lion chariots and White Lion models.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, the things in this picture I find interesting is these eyes are painted like real eyes.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that makes me like, besides this is painted to look like a real lion. That is to say, they made the nose this darker color. This is probably some shade of purple or something like that, because that's would turn that dark gray. This is clearly the white muzzle color with the little whiskery dots, and the eyes have
over the rest of a pelt. Like you can see it here.
Yep. And these eyes have reflection, like they're living eyes, right?
Yeah.
Now, the common conception is this is a shoulder pad, right, or something. Mm-hmm. If that's the case, how? Where is this sitting on the model? Like, where is his head? Okay, vis-a-vis this, because it doesn't seem like this goes into a head here.
Yeah, it would have to be off the left-hand side of the picture.
Right. And where is there a head here?
Yeah, like, yeah.
And then what the heck are these? What are these tassels? You see what I'm saying? Like, this is a weird, like, this looks like a back, but where are these tassels flipping forward? Unless these are coming down off a weapon, right? So I think of like, I think of the White Lion axe.
Yeah, they have ribbons.
It has the backwards ribbons coming back. Like that would explain what the tassels are. But this is like, if that's the case, this model's very, like, he's posed unusually. Like almost
he's a
like
dynamic
this
pose, if that's the case.
Yeah, like the head is his head, the model's head is on the other side of this head.
Yeah,
like
which
hood.
That said, you know what? I could see this being a White Lion hero. Because that's all you would need, for example, for a skirmish box, would be a White Lion hero.
Sure.
Like a hero.
Also remember that they don't always keep the eye orientation with these rumor engines, so they sometimes do flip them on their sides and stuff. So
it's
entirely possible this could be sort of a drooping head rather than sitting on a shoulder kind of head.
Sure. Yep.
Maybe.
No, absolutely. Yeah, my call is this is the right shoulder, because it has you caught the mold line, which is what I was going to point out. Frequently models, especially if you look at like the Stormcast with their pauldrons and things like that, the pauldron has a connection point right here.
Yeah.
Right? This is often
that would lead me to think that that's a shoulder right here.
Exactly. So if this is the shoulder,
and shoulder,
the head, the lion head is a hood, and the model's head is on the face, whatever you want to say, is underneath this and pointing the opposite direction, right? And these are tassels coming off of the weapon.
Yeah, and then the lower part may be the arm reaching up.
Yeah. Yep. Like the arm would theoretically go shoop shoop out here. And that would explain why there's no head right here, where we would expect it if this was a shoulder pad. So given that, I would have to say that, you know, something White Lion-y does feel fairly possible, but it could also be.
Don't get my hopes up. Nope, you can't do that.
I said fairly possible.
40 of those sitting in the case.
Sure. The other option is old Lionel has Lionel's back, and now he's living up to his name in his new form. He went feral on some planet with giant lions for a while, and then he killed somebody. He's back. Somebody found him wandering around a jungle.
Which, don't get me wrong, that'd be pretty sweet.
Sure. I don't know how long that guy can live. Why not? But yeah, there you go. So that's my thoughts. Rob, what about you? Did I miss anything? Is there any other thoughts you have?
No, I my favorite is the white there's Lionel actually. Is some sort of yeah, the way you mentioned sort of how it looks like a shoulder with the mold line, it doesn't feel a bit more like it's going to be some sort of heraldry on somebody's body,
right?
Somewhere.
Yeah. I know he's a very popular Primarch. Like, I know there's a lot of people who would love to see this guy come back. So, you know, I don't know. And clearly you know, Guilliman and
strong rumors that Mortarian's coming for the Death Guard.
Right, exactly. Yep.
There's already a plastic Primarch for both Chaos and Imperials, so it makes sense to have another one for the Imperials to balance that out.
Yeah, and both of those two kits sold like gangbusters. I mean, they were just printing money, as we've pointed out, right? And they very much left the door open that, like, hey, we'll come back to that.
You know, at the end of this, all of them are going to be on the table, right?
I mean, on a long enough timeline, sure.
Like, they're going to roll out all of your Primarchs and all of your Fallen whatevers. Like, I mean, all these centerpiece kits just sell so well.
Yeah, because people want to see them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Guilliman, pretty popular. Freaking, you know, Guilliman, however you say his name. Rabute, which I love that's how you say his name. Rabute. He pronounces his own name in the video, and he says, Rabute Guilliman or whatever. Yeah, because like he swallows the L, but Guilliman. But yeah, Rabute. I love that's his name. That's hilarious. The greatest warrior in the universe, and his name is Rabute. Anyway,
any opportunity to say Butte.
Yeah, exactly. I will work it in. So this is probably the most interesting rumor engine for me we've seen in a while, because it can go so many different interesting directions, and honestly, I think all of them would be cool. I think a sweet Lionel Johnson fig would be pretty neat. I like the Guilliman fig. I like obviously the Magnus the Red fig is amazing. I mean, these are amazing kits. I love the idea of White Lions. I love the idea of Sigmar getting a fig. I don't care that I just converted one. I'll buy another one. Like, so this is all win to me from any of the ideas I've seen suggested. I think they're all cool.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
And this one actually gave, like, what I liked about this one is you could actually see something about it. It wasn't just like, I don't know. It's a circle.
It's a panel, maybe a shoulder or something. We don't know. It's a chain connecting to a disc.
Right. Like, some of them have been pretty obscure. So no, this one was great. I like this one. I want to see more stuff like that. I also want to shout out Rust Belt Blacksmith in the comments, who said, I would love to see the Iron Hands Primarch just be a head in a jar, like in Futurama. Which I think is amazing. I support this. Just if he can have little spider legs that he walks around on too, then I'm really all about that. That would be fantastic.
I have no strong feelings one way or the other.
on Brain in a Jar Primarch. Okay. So let's do we have any other news, Tom? Is that all we've got this week?
Not really. I mean, for events coming up, NashCon is coming June 2nd. Vince and I are signed up.
We did it. We did it.
Yep. I'm interested in taking home some swords, so I'm gonna give that a try. That's the trophies. If you have not seen them, they're swords, big swords, just what I need in my 4-child household. It's gonna be awesome. And then on June 10th is the Coalescence event. So
that's gonna be good fun.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, I mentioned this earlier on one of the prior shows. Because of some scheduling stuff, I'm not actually going to be able to run the Lexington Coalescence. So I've offered it to the rest of the community to see if anybody else would pick it up. But it does not look like that's going to happen. So I'm still waiting to see if we can get some more feedback to see if anybody else can do it. So
my other update is, I mentioned last week the Tabletop Miniature Solution Kickstarter for the Vampire Army. It is chugging right along. It's up to, they're about 60% of their goal right now. So I have full expectation it's going to reach its funding. The link will be below Go check it out. As I said last week, Archer's doing some amazing stuff. If you're interested in new death models, and I know there are a lot of people calling for the death, you can see a couple. He's got another painted sculpt in there. Amazing art. And as I said before, on the previous 2 Kickstarters he did, the final model basically looked like the art brought to life in all the cases. So check out, like, there's the deals are
that
incredible.
doesn't always happen, folks.
It really doesn't, but this is, for many things Tom and I know well, that does not always happen. But they're great resin sculpts, and like, the resin's very solid. It's not like some cheapy bones material or anything like that. It's a real nice hard resin that they use. Very good detail. And there are some fantastic deals. You can get a single hero for $10, whole units for $25, and just up from there. Also, if you're the type of person who might like a V-Lot or something like that, you're a Vampire Lord on Abyssal Terror, well, guess what? There's several new options for you in the Abyssal Terror type of category. So how about that? As well as, obviously, new zombies, new ghouls, new all that good stuff. So, as well as some very sweet new skeletons, which he actually has the pictures of the miniatures. And they look super cool because they look like Roman skeletons, kind of. So I dig that very much. Check them out. Links down below. I'll throw it in there, so you have to wait till after the show. But check it out. Let's get it across the line and see some awesome undead. Okay. So let's turn to some pick of the week. Rob, you're the guest, so you get the honor and curse of going first. What would you like to promote, share, etc. with the audience?
Well, I started to not shamelessly plug anything of my own, so I'm actually going to share. If you don't know what Hobbyhammer is, he runs a blog. It's a guy called Sean over in the UK. He's run a couple of events at this point, and he has a blog site, hobbyhammer.com. They do a whole bunch of stuff. So they've got a sort of a podcast link to it. They do miniature showcases. They do battle reports. They do battle plans. They do a whole bunch of hosting and tutorials and stuff. It's a fantastic blog. If you don't know about it, check it out, because it is one of my favorites on the internet. So
perfect. I love it. That is exactly the kind of thing. I will link the blog down below. And you can go there and access to everything else. It is a great blog. I agree completely. And you should follow him on Twitter too, because he's on Twitter and he's always throwing up good stuff. Like that's how I usually see that new stuff goes up. So
likewise.
Excellent. Tommy, what about you, sir? What are you sharing out with people today?
Yeah, so I stumbled upon, I've shared some of their stuff before, but I just fell in love with it. I stumbled upon some of Terraforge's, one of their most recent projects. And they did an Aztec, or a Lusterian, jungle themed Blood Bowl table. And
holy crap, that is awesome.
Flipping beautiful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And it just looks like, I don't play Blood Bowl, but seeing this, I'm like, I can play me some Blood Bowl. And if you they have the score stuff built in, you can see the numbers built into the floor tiles.
Oh yeah, nice.
For the various scoring and stuff like that. You can see the reserve, and so the various things that are going on the sidelines tracked by the rooms that people are placed in. It's just a really high quality project that they did. Very, very impressed. So Terraforge, you can look it up on Facebook. You can do a Google search and look for their stuff. And
or you can look in the links, because that's where it'll be.
Yeah, it'll be in the links. Yeah. And the other thing about their board, I think they said it was the whole commission was $600 or something like that. Custom built for $599. So that's pretty crazy. That's a pretty good deal. So let me just say it this way: you're going for a Realm of Battle board, which is obviously smaller, but you're going to pay from GW $360. And they've done this work for just under double that. So
very nice. I dig it. That is an awesome thing that is built there. The craftsmanship on that too. Just the water effects and stuff were so minimal but really nice. That looked really good. All right. Mine that I want to share is, if everybody is familiar or may or may not be familiar with Warhammer.com, it's a great like miniature painting site. Does weekly do not miss of various miniature projects around the internet. But right now they just started a new ongoing project called A Tale of Nine Warlords, and it's a bunch of display painters and commission painters and like very high end painters. It's 9 of them doing 1,000-point army.
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
Yeah. So what happens when you force, very high-end single model competition painters to to paint armies?
Yeah.
And what you get. So it's it's pretty good. If you're at all follow a lot of different painters, you'll probably recognize some of the names. Volodymyr himself is participating in it. He's one of the group. I'll link down to the introduction blog, so you can see it and follow it along. It's great for inspiration for your armies because it shows that if you want to take the time, you can really do some amazing stuff. And the reality is that for a lot of us, I think it's easy to get caught up in the like, a new army comes out, I've got to get it painted super fast, I've got to get it on the table, even though I already have 8 other armies I could play or something. So, this is a chance to show like, hey, what you could do is you could, instead
slow it down. And
yeah, when you get your new army, really dump some love into it and see what you've got. I will say my favorite is the guy who's cheating by taking ogres, and so he's only doing like 10 models. It's pretty so, way to game the system there.
Way to be a competition painter.
Yeah, the other guy's doing like grots, so he's just got like tons of goblins. Like that guy really in for some pain if he's going to do those to that level. So, but check it out. I'll put the link down there. It should be a very fun project to watch evolve. Okay, so let's turn to some hobby time. So, Rob, what's on your table, sir? What are you working on right now?
I'm actually going back to the Tzeentch again. So I'm pretty much just finishing up painting my Tzeentch. I've had a bunch of stuff for a while. Finished painting my Lord Change, my Gaunt Summoner, which I'm very pleased with. I think the Gaunt Summoner is one of the best models I've ever painted, so I'm kind of being very delicate with him at the moment.
It's such a good model. I totally agree. Like one of my favorites. He's really, really good.
Yeah. And then just a whole bunch of pink and blue horrors.
Flipping it around, those can be some fast models to paint and still they look pretty nice.
Blues and Brimstones came out so fast. I was really impressed with them. They're really nice. They were horrible to put together, but really nice to paint.
Yep, absolutely. They're an airbrush's dream come true. Let me just say that. Those guys, they were built for airbrushing. Awesome. I love it. Yes, I just recently finished up my Tzeentch Force, so I'm with you on that. Tommy, what about you, buddy? What we all know what's on your table, but how progresses it, Tom?
Well, I've decided to slow down a little bit to do what was just talked about.
Sure. And
kind of lavish some love on my models. And so I'm not really rushing through painting my Caradhran. They have a lot of detail, and I'm enjoying painting some of them. So I'm trying to pull up my image, which is loading really slowly. So the actual progress itself puts me at, I have basically 7 of my first 10 done. And I have the bases for all of them made. So they just need to be, the 7 need to be attached to their bases.
Are you going to do floating rocks for all of them? I saw the person doing floating rocks.
No. I'm doing, I am doing lava bases.
Sure.
So, yep.
Floating rocks over lava?
No. So, and you can see nice, copious amounts of glow effects throughout the army. And yeah, it's going well. I really enjoyed.
Mohawks are looking good.
Say what?
Your Mohawks are looking good.
Thanks. I really put some time in to figure out how to make those pop, because I really wanted to lean into the Slayer hair.
Was it step 1 paint orange, step 2 paint add yellow, step 3 complete?
No, it was like orange and then paint orange over orange.
Sure.
And then then a couple layers of washes to varying degrees, and then some dry brushes, and then the secret, which is I have a huge stash of Lamenter's yellow.
Yes.
Like stored away.
Absolutely. Love me some Lamenter's Yellow.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and so then after like dry brush and picking out the hair, going back over and hitting the whole thing, with glazing it with the Lamenter's Yellow, and it like adds the perfect finish to the hair because it smooths all the dry brush out and it like makes it like it's man, that Lamenter's Yellow. I am lamenting its disappearance from the shelf, and I
Absolutely.
have a local source that still has like 6 on the shelf. So I'm thinking about going and cleaning them out just because I'm using it for that. I'm using it for all my glow effects. You're just using it for so much in this army. So
Right.
I'll eventually go through all of it. So I'm moving on to my converted Skyhook models. I'm doing those last because they're a little bit of a pain to paint. And so I wanted to kind of finish on those. And then after I get those 10 done, I actually I was going to move on to a hero right away. I think I may go back and finish my 4x4 board that I was in the process of creating. Because with Skirmish dropping so soon, I think that like I have one panel done. I have another panel that's almost completely like largely done. So I'm basically like a bunch of bark and paint away from having a 4x4 table done.
Gotcha.
And so at that point, like I think I may take a hold on these guys for just a little bit, finish my 4x4, so I have a nice skirmish table, and then come back to painting these guys. So because I don't want to rush it, and I really do enjoy them and like kind of lavishing that attention, and they have enough detail that it's really easy to get burned out on.
Sure.
They have a lot of detail, and it doesn't look like it, but as I was telling Vince, there's at least 3 kind of layers deep on every model. And so there's not you can't just like splash a bunch of stuff, but you actually have to like work in a very kind of systemic pattern as you're moving through painting the model.
Yeah, because they got like the jumpsuit, then the armor, then the other pieces on top.
Yes,
yeah,
like jumpsuit, armor, and then the things on top of the armor. And because of that, like you can't just splash a bunch of paint on there like with a lot of other stuff. It's like if anybody's ever painted Lothar and Seaguard, or the Spire Guard now is what they're called. There's a series of layers on the Spire Guard that's just a pain in the butt because they just have so many details and knickknacks and stuff like that. And I mean, the Caradron are the same. And on top of that, I added hair. So, yep.
There you go. What were you going to say, Rob?
I was going to say, I noticed that when I was looking at the models, you've got the kind of the leather, then you've got the straps, then you've got the armor, multiple layers. If you're adding the hair in as well.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of time, and I'm okay spending that time. Like they're really coming out nice, and I'm enjoying them, and so I'm not too stressed about it. So, and I'm not planning on playing them competitively for a while. So, yeah.
There you go. For myself,
but hold on.
Go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
We missed a news item, Vince.
I was going to mention it right now.
Okay, so I was going to say, as the transition, you better mention this, otherwise we're just going to have to go back and announce it as part of the larger conversation, and you can stop flicking me off now. Continue.
I wasn't intending to. I was really just wiping my eye, but that's fine. That's funny. So yes, what Tom is alluding to is so this last weekend, I have not done any hobby for like 10 days, which oh my god is about killed me. That is just as I was traveling all over. But I did, I shouldn't really say that. I did get to do just some for funsies painting when I was down there. Cause this last weekend I was down at CMON Expo, and which has one of the Road to Crystal Brush painting competitions. And I took best in show with the, Lord and Change. So I won first place. I was very excited. The Big Bird brought home the gold. So way to go. Thank you, Turkey.
No, stop. Yes, that is true. You did win best in place, but of the 4 awards, how else did you place, Vince?
So out of the 4 awards, I took 2 firsts, a second, and then a third. Yes, in the 4 categories. Correct. So, I was very happy.
He swept the award show. So, congrats, Vince.
Thank you very much. There was some other really. There was some other really good stuff there, so I was very happy about that. And yeah, that Lord of Change, he's a great figure. What can I say? So there you go. What I am working on though, I got to hobby just a little bit today before the show, and where I had left off, I'm still working on my reforging diorama here. The Stormcast is in progress, doing all the non-metallic metal on him. This will be the Sigmar's room where he'll sit in the middle. And then, of course, we have the window where, out the window there with space. Yes.
Space Station Sigmar.
Space Station Sigmar out the window there. So there you go. I've got to figure out how it all fits together that I like it. But, yep.
See, it should have just been a big red planet horizon.
Well, I've got the like red planet there.
I know, but it should have just been a horizon, like a horizon pick. And
of
so
the
like,
bottom.
Yeah,
sure.
the planet, like the half thing, and then you like maybe have the Coronis like up over his shoulders or whatever. Just saying.
Yeah, I wanted
you
some
missed an
different colors
opportunity
and
with
stuff
that.
on there. Sure. I wanted to have the different colors and things in there, but yes. Also, I was afraid if it was down by the bottom, it'd get lost behind him because keep in mind he's got a big giant cloak. So it fills up most of the space in between those two columns. Like he takes up most of that space because he's huge. So there you go. I'm hoping to finish it up this weekend. I think that will be possible. I can, because mainly the wife is out of town this weekend, so there's going to be nothing else to do except sit around and hobby for like 50 or 60 hours. I'm not leaving this chair. That is it. So sleep, no. Anything else, no. Hobby, yes. That is all. So I'm looking forward to that. All right. So let's get into the feature segment, though. Let's talk about Warhammer Skirmish. Tom, what do we got, man? Let's I'm turning this over to you. Let's drop some deets. What do we got?
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of run down and give like a big picture overview, and then we can talk about. If you want to stop me at any point, we can talk about details. And so the first thing that we need to know is that it is. Like some people said, nearly all the units are in the game, but that's not actually true. And what I mean by that is if you want to know what's in the game, so that their design intent with this was that you could walk into a GW store in the morning, grab like a box of minis and a character, paint up a warband, or let's say the store opens early or your local hobby store, grab the box, put things together. By 1 o'clock, you're rolling dice. Like that's the goal, is that like you could grab some stuff, throw some paint on it or whatever, start rolling dice right away. Okay, and have it be easy, straightforward, just diving right in. And so with that, they only did rules in what they call like renown, which are the equivalent of points, for those models that met this criteria, which meant that it had to be on the shelf in a store. So metal models, fine cast models, Forge World models, none of them have rules for skirmish. So that's on one end. The other end is monsters, behemoths, probably, I'm guessing, war machines, but I don't know yet that for a fact. Definitely not behemoths. Anything that is in that larger category, probably 12 wounds, you're not going to see. They don't have points for those. Or they call them renown. But everything else is kind of in the in-between. You will likely see that on the table. Every force has to have at least one hero. When you buy units, you buy minimum unit size of 1 for any model, and you pay per model. So you kind of so you're still kind of buying units, but not really. And it's basically going to be plastics only.
I wonder about the fine cast that comes in. Like, I'm sure that's true mostly. I do wonder about the fine cast that comes
in the clan packs.
Yeah, like in clan packs or in other boxes, because there are a few floating around, right? Where you like,
and they named a bunch of he read the entire Slanesh list.
Yeah.
And I could swear some of those Slanesh models are only available in metals for the heroes, and I'm pretty sure they were there.
Well, like the hero on the Slaneshi Chaos Lord on the demonic mount, on the bootworm.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'd have to, but he read, and there was a bunch of them that were listed, including like maybe the Herald of Slanesh. Like, is there a plastic Herald of Slanesh, or is it only metal?
No, there's a plastic Herald of Slanesh.
There's one.
Only on the chariots.
Right. Yes, but on foot. Is there a Herald on foot without?
The Slanesh Herald is fine cast. You can put the one on Herald on a base on foot, but there's not a single model for that on plastic.
Got it.
I assume the named characters are out. Like, we're not going to see...
and there's no named characters. You don't expect to see any named characters. They're not going to be there.
Right.
Every force is going to be between 5 and 20 models. Okay?
Okay.
And they showed that models sat in the point range of 1 and 2 points up to 25 points or so per model.
So the heroes, your big good heroes of this game are like 20 to 25 points, right?
Yes. And so like expect 20 points for most heroes, 25 if it's a hero, like 5 wound, nice save, that's also a spellcaster.
Gotcha.
So like the Ghoul King, who's a spellcaster and who is his own general, was 25 points, I think. And he was a beast. He like chewed through the entire enemy force at the end. He was like the only guy left, and like 4 people. He's like nom 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 nom, and just killed everything. Like it was just brutal. Ben Johnson just like I was like, oh, Ben's done, and then Ben's like, nope, nah. This is half my force in one model, and it eats all of yours. Like it was fantastic. It was a great game. It literally came down to like the last roll, so it was very good.
Well, I like the starting model count because that is the Mordheim model count, which to me is a magic number, right?
Yep.
5 to 20.
5 to 20.
Yep.
And it seems like, so they decided like Glade Guard, for example, are at 2 points a model.
Okay.
So you could easily have like 19 Glade Guard, or like maybe let's see like 15 Glade Guard and probably like a hero, like a Waywatcher hero or something.
Sure.
Like that's probably fully within the realm of possibility, or like an Aerloth, Wanderer or whatever, Wanderer Lord or whatever they're called.
Right.
So Warband composition is a hero and up to 20 plus or 20-ish models. Wizards have access to 3 new spells, which I thought was really interesting.
This is so interesting to me. Yes. Go ahead.
So one is Soul Siphon, which does a mortal wound and heals a wound.
Okay.
So it's like a nuke that, it's like a life transfer, do a damage, heal a damage.
It's a life tap. Yep.
Yep. There's the Pathway, which is a teleport 1 model, 12 inches.
Yep.
So it's like a short range, like move. And then the other one was Shard Mist, and it's -1 to hit range in 6 inches. And so I don't know if it's a buff that you seem to put around you, and you project a 6-inch bubble that any range shooting in that range is -1 to hit. That's what it seemed like it was. So rather than debuff the enemy, you buff yourself with this like mist that blocks incoming range attacks.
So I want to touch on that one real quick. Now, Rob, I'm interested to get your feedback on those 3 spells, but I want to lay something out here real quick. We have talked for like there's been so much hay made about the primacy of shooting. Okay. Now I want you to imagine that in the GHB2, in the core rule set, there's a 3rd spell added, okay, that is a shooting debuff. Okay, it doesn't have to function exactly like that. Every wizard gets it. Like right now, there's Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield, right? And then there's a 3rd one added that's like a shot debuff. Almost instantly, that changes all the math, right? If this is a common spell that every wizard gets.
Yeah, because if it's a 6-inch bubble, imagine it's a 6-inch bubble, okay? Glot can cast it.
Sure.
And it projects out from his base, and all your other heroes just move up to his base.
Yeah,
okay?
like
suddenly all of your heroes are blanketed in a -1 that's protected, and then Cunning Deceiver makes another -1, so round 1 you're -2 to hit ranged.
I mean, the thing about it that's fascinating to me is we've talked before about how, and I've banged on this in like 3 videos now, about how I don't want to see like the rule from 40K come in with the sniping thing and the immortal characters. I don't want it. It's too strong. It doesn't need to be there. And I've talked about how, don't full shout out to Charlie Banks, who said, don't use a chainsaw when all you need is a scalpel. That is a great scalpel. Like that spell, right? Like exactly. I hadn't even ever considered altering the basic assumptions of everybody's spells, that like we could have a 3rd spell in the rotation beyond what exists there.
Just generic spells.
Yeah. Like there could be another generic spell or 2, and they could vastly alter the landscape of the game. Vastly do it. If that teleporting movement spell became like some version of that, I'm not saying like take the exact
in your hero phase. 12 inches in your hero phase. Imagine that.
Right. I'm not saying take that exact spell, but if there's something like that, right?
Yeah.
If a flat movement spell entered the common arena where every wizard got it, boom, game changes. Right? Because suddenly every army has theoretically every army has access.
Every army can first turn charge then.
Sure. Has that, well, yes, with something. Has access to some kind of movement trick, right? They could get one unit across the board. Everybody suddenly gets access to some kind of movement trick.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm not saying yay or nay to this. I'm just saying, like, I had never considered the addition of core spells. But
Except Khorne. Khorne wouldn't get it.
If you're, that's why I said almost every. I understand there are armies that don't have wizards if they're played straight in their subfaction. Khorne and Stormcast being two good examples. Fine, whatever. I would argue that Stormcast already has like a ton of movement shenanigans, and so whatever.
Sure.
But fine. My point is simply that in most cases, it's unbelievable how that is a meteoric impact off such a minor change. Right.
Yeah.
So, and it shocked me because I hadn't thought about it beforehand. At any rate, okay. Now that I've rambled, Rob, what do you think about those 3 spells in the game? You like them in the skirmish setting?
Do you mean from a regiment's perspective, or from a normal sort of Age of Sigmar perspective?
From the purpose of skirmish, do you like them in there? And then if you want to then talk about, the idea of bringing them over. Yeah. I
think having extra spells and for the standard in a skirmish is a fantastic idea, because it is going to fix. It's not fix. It's going to create a different dynamic with all the things. Having a movement spell and shooting kind of innately seems quite powerful in a skirmish thing. If you can have a handful of relatively weak shooting units, they can still shoot off single units in your army fairly easily. So just having that anti-shooting buff thing is really, really handy. As far as in Age of Sigmar goes, what's quite interesting is that a lot of the really strong shooting meta at the moment in competitive play does revolve around like low to hit values. So Cunning Ruck, for example, it hits on relatively low and it gets extra hits on 6s. So if you debuff that, it's not getting extra hits, it's hitting on even less. Things like Skyfires, they don't rely on their normal shooting, they rely on the mortal wounds.
Right.
On 6. So unless they're buffed, you can take that out of the equation. The problem is what you'll end up seeing if you introduce that to the normal match play system is an increase in the need for an alpha strike. So you'll have more armies changing to 1-drop armies to make sure they can get first turn and eliminate those heroes. So if you have like going with Skyfire, say you've got 2 or 3 units of 6 Skyfires, as if it was 1-drop, which you can do that if you have one of the armies, you can move forward and then shoot off carriers.
Skyfire list can 1-drop?
If you take the Cult of the Transient Form or the Pyro Fire Cult, you can fit in 2 units of 6.
But 2 units of 6? I was going to say, yeah, because those are so tight point-wise. Tight.
It's tight. You don't get anything else.
Right. No, but it's interesting. I do agree. That's a great sort of like putting a finger on the second order consequences of you're not going to be casting those spells, before you go, right? So that alpha strike potential becomes really important because suddenly all that stuff does your shiny toys shut off. It's interesting, the effects. Yeah, that's a good point. A really good point. All right, so I'll be interested to see. I hadn't considered the core spells changing in GHB2, which wasn't anything that even occurred to me.
Really?
Really, it hadn't. I didn't thought just that they would change what they were.
No, I just assumed that they would roll it into the generic Legion stuff. So like you'd have your like Allegiance abilities that we've got, like a generic 3 to 6 spells that like Order can choose, 3 to 6 spells that Destruction can choose, that Death can choose, and it just gets rolled into the generic Death ability.
Sure, maybe. I don't know. I'm saying I had never considered the fact that Arcane Bolt and Mystic Shield are like this sort of sacred pair, right? Ever becoming like a triple threat. Like it hadn't been on my radar. But it's interesting to think that it could happen. So
Agreed. So I'm going to jump back to some lore, some background. When we had mentioned this, the actual game of AOS Skirmish right now, at least, is set in Shadespire. Or the ruins actually of Shadespire. They leaked some information about the Shadespire setting. So we have like Warhammer Underworld Shadespire, which is the skirmish.
He's finishing up. Don't worry. Are you done dying, Tom?
I'm almost done dying. See, this is the worst week for me to talk. It's the one where I don't really have my voice.
I can't help it, man.
I know.
That's what it is.
I know. It is. So we have the Underworld, the Warhammer Underworlds, and that is separate. And that's what was demoed with the skeletons and all that stuff. And that has an ongoing storyline. Apparently, the dwellers of Shadespire offended Nagash, which isn't hard to do, and he cursed the city. And they're in this like life-death loop. Yep. Everybody that lives there in the Shadespire. And so whatever the Underworld Shadespire game is, it's exploring that. The reality is there's large parts of this city that was highly magical that's just like open for the looting. And they said that, interestingly, Shadespire is a ruined city in the Plain of Death, located in the midst of a desert of death, was their exact words in the descriptions.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, really? A desert of death?
Could that desert be endless? It might be.
Could that desert be endless? Maybe have some skeletons in it? I don't know. Come on, GW. We're waiting. Okay. So going back to the book that's dropping this week, so in addition to like the quote-unquote plan of point values and composition, it's going to have 6 battle plans. And these battle plans are seemingly going to have narrative connections. I don't know if it's going to be like you do 1, 2, then 3. But the idea is that the game is kind of designed for you to play through all 6 together, so that you do kind of one of each with your warband, and then that's when your warband ends at the end of these 6. Mm-hmm. And so that was a little bit disappointing that narratively, like on one hand, there's a beginning and end to every warband.
Sure. I mean, like even in classic Mordheim, there was a point where it just went off the rails, right? Either it spiraled into death, or you hit like 400 or 500 renown and you just murdered anything that came on the table that wasn't also at 400 or 500 renown, right? Or whatever it was then.
Yeah.
So
sure. I think there's a lot of potential here to kind of play with some of this, but what I would say is that it's out of the gate, it's designed to have like make your warband play 6 games.
Right. Now, Rob, what do you think about that as just sort of the initial strategy? You feel like is that enough to get going with as an initial launch?
I mean, you only need a handful of battle plans to get going with it. So yeah, having 6 is actually more than I was expecting. I was kind of expecting what they did in like with the Path to Glory in the General's Handbook. They give you 2 battle plans, and they say, well, you can use the other ones if you want. Like you've got plenty of battle plans, that's fine. Yeah. So the fact that we've got 6 that can be played through in some sort of narrative arc is great.
And they made it very clear that you can also use any of the pitch or any of the match play battle plans as well. So that's the thing as well. I don't know how exactly that would work always on a 4x4. Some of it might be a little bit difficult or a little bit weird. But they made that clear. They made clear that there are magical items, new magical items that are going to be in Shadespire. New magical items that can be selected and found. We got demoed some of those extra wounds, stuff like that, in the game today. It said that upgrades were possible, but it wasn't always real clear what that meant. It didn't seem like actual heroes, their stats or anything were going to be upgrading. It seemed like most of that was associated with just growing a warband itself. So just expanding the actual, like, your points to build or rebuild your warband in between games. It said fast and quick AOS games, their goal was 45-minute games is what they were aiming for. So that you could build this and then get together for, I don't know, 5 more hours and play through all 6 scenarios.
Sure.
4.5 hours. Or no. Yeah, 4.5 hours.
Sure, which is a little faster than old school Mordheim, right? But not by much. I mean, Mordheim games were generally an hour, maybe hour and a half if it was like a really big, crazy, complicated game. A lot of players. Have they? I haven't seen the confirmation that you can play multiple, like 4-player armies simultaneously.
So Ben Johnson suggested that you can use the rules in like the Triumphant Treachery stuff from the Path to Glory that they included for that.
Right.
So
I want to see multiplayer scenarios right away. Like, look, I'm just gonna go ahead and say this right now. I'm going to put us on the hook for this, Tom. We're doing some design work for this.
We are.
It's going to happen. We'll talk about it more, I'm sure, in some other future show. But like, to me, this is the perfect jumping off point that just says that turns us loose. And Mordheim really started popping when they added like all the multiplayer scenarios. We broke out of the hard lock 2-player scenarios that were in the first Mordheim book and got into the later scenario editions and stuff like that. To me, this is primed for the community to just grab and run with.
Yeah, Vince and I have already talked about this. I didn't realize he was going to announce it tonight, but we've already talked about it.
It puts us on the hook for it. So there
yeah,
you go.
yeah, we're responsible for this now. We're going to design some like obviously some community-driven content that we'll release as an expansion to the skirmish stuff, like immediately, like very soon after. We've set aside time specifically to do this.
Right.
So
Ooh, look forward to that.
As do I, because we are right in my wheelhouse here. Don't get me wrong, I love AOS, but man, do I love like Warhammer Skirmish size like stuff and just brutal, fast games in dirty streets and alleys. I'm all about it.
And the reality is that you can actually port in a lot. For those that knew that we did Mordheim previously, we did a Mordheim port for AOS. A lot of this straight ports directly in. Like you could bring a lot of what we previously did directly into their new skirmish model,
and we may be doing some of that.
And it solves a lot of some of the challenges that we were bumping into with like leveling up and stuff like that. So, yeah, so you can look for something from us in the coming weeks and months. Way to spoil that in the middle of the show rather than at the end of the show, Vince. Thanks.
Hey, we can't help myself.
So, as we said, no big monsters. Shadespire is a great and rich city. If in Nagash, already talked about that.
He's a real snowflake, that guy, Nagash. Let me tell you what, just such a little baby.
So much anger. So much anger. This is what being immortal does to you.
I guess.
Yeah, you're just so touchy. They said that banners and musicians are going to work a little bit different than they do currently in the game. Like even though you drop as a unit, so it seems like you still obey all the rules. So when you drop your models, you buy a unit in like a 1 to, however many models you want. And I think you get all the benefits of that unit on deployment. Okay. So if you buy 10 models and that unit gains a benefit at 10 models, you gain that benefit. Like that's a thing.
Right. Otherwise you just don't get it.
Yeah. Otherwise you just don't get it. Just like when you drop, like it says you get a champion and you get a hero, or you get a champion and you get a musician and you get a standard bearer. That all happens. So those all drop. You're going to move all these and activate them individually, but they're going to drop together. And the standard bearer and the musician are going to work in a 6-inch radius, is what we understand. Like Rob mentioned it kind of offhand and moved on, and we never saw it really come up in the game.
So you drop them together, but they act individually. Do you know how it works with selecting different weapons?
They said it's as normal. So, for example, like if you have
Retributors.
Retributors, you're going to get a Star Soul Mace for every however many you normally have to take. So you may have to take 5 Retributors in order to get your 2 Star Soul Maces. So
with for example, Chaos Warriors, you get to choose which weapons. I think have 2 hand weapons or hand weapon shield, for example.
Yep.
You can't mix in one unit.
You'd have to do 2 different units. Like it seems like you would
1-man units.
Yes, you'd have to have 2 units that you would buy, and then each one would be equipped with their weapon selection. Now I don't know what dropping looks like. They said it was alternating, but I don't know if you drop all in a unit or you drop by model, and that wasn't really clear. And it wasn't clear who takes the first turn, is it who drops first, who finishes first, and so it wasn't real clear what the rules were going to be on that. So, but
I think,
it seems
Rob,
like you would have to have separate units, is what I would say.
Well, and I'll say, I think, Rob, it's a good point that like those units that can just sort of freely mix weapons.
Yep.
Right. So like brutes or Ardboys or things like that can just be like any number of them can be armed with this or this or this or this, and you can kind of just declare. Like Zangor being another good example of that can just go all crazy mixed, right?
Yep.
Those units seem very powerful in that small setup because you can sort of really mix and match and just get the exact sort of balance you want. You're not hemmed in, right, in any kind of way.
Yeah, I've been thinking long and hard about my Caradron, actually. And the reason why being that, like, light skyhooks are the shit in like actual for company play. But I can tell you right now, if I set them down on the table for skirmish, I'm going to want everybody with the Gatling guns, because you're not. I don't think a chemist buffing. I don't think the buffing hits the whole unit. I think it just hits the model, and that's what they seem to imply. Like when you buff in game, buffing a unit is buffing a single model, and so like a chemist would buff one model's attacks increased by 1. Which is severely different than like buffing like 40, Argonaut Company that had 12 light skyhooks that go to 24 attacks. And so suddenly the 6 attacks from the Gatling gun on the company, like to have 3 of those Gatling guns at 6 attacks each, they're going to on average do 1 wound. And so like they are going to be reliably be able to delete a person, like a single wound model every round within 18 inches.
So with the skyhooks, the D3 damage is kind of wasted, isn't it? If you've only got, if you largely got
one.
Well,
it depends on who you're shooting at. If you're shooting at a dumb greatsword or whatever, then it's worthless. Now that said, you still have -2 rends. That's still a really big deal. Because that just like armor now is a lot more important, because armor really is your damage prevention here. So rend, I think, is going to go up in value as well. Because if anything you can do to kind of truly mitigate that, because again, like getting things like extra ward saves and stuff like that seem like it's going to be a really difficult thing to do. So it'll be interesting to see how this kind of ends up playing out.
Well, it changes the math on the multi-wound thing, right?
Yeah.
I think is what you're pointing at, Rob, and I think you're right, because it can be, it inverse bell curves it in value, right?
Yep.
What I mean by that is half the time it's worthless because you're going to be shooting at 1 wound pud whackers, right? So like putting a D3 wound thing into a single goblin, when that's all you kill. Because my guess is you only act as a unit for the initial selection, and then once you and drop, and then literally from the time the flag goes and the game is off, it's
Everybody's
now, the idea of
what it seemed like when the people were moving stuff around. Yeah.
So it's literally just like the organization and dropping phase that cares about units, and after that, all bets are off. But so like firing at a single pudwhacker goblin is just like, who cares, right? But brutes and those multi-wound things like that, like a Blight King, like those dudes are scary in this kind of a game, right? Those things are monsters.
Blight Kings are terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. That guy's gonna walk up and just like explode and just tons of hits. Like, yeah. So like having that D3 wound thing for him suddenly has a really high value. But there's a lot less middle where you can just fire it off into those mid-sized units, and you pick a couple guys off, right? Which is sort of how it could normally work.
I don't. So as a side note, allegiance abilities still seem to be in effect in some way. And what I mean by that is Ben Johnson was making death saves, like the ward save, the generic ward save for his Flesh Eater Courts. And Rob just kind of flipped out and said, "Yeah, there's some of the stuff still there." And he kind of moved on real quick from that. But so it seems like there are some still generic, like overarching abilities for each Grand Alliance that they're operating under.
Yeah, I've got to imagine that it doesn't have the specific, like that the book special abilities aren't in play, like maybe the General's Handbook ones, the Grand Alliance level ones, but not the specific faction ones. Because like 9 fate dice on this kind of a format is going to be pretty potent.
Yeah, no. So they said it had to be from the same Grand Alliance. They said that battalions don't work. I'm guessing that everybody, like when you choose your faction, you get the generic ability of whatever that is. I don't know if it's going to be the same for match play. Like it seems like Death still gets their save. I'm guessing Destruction probably still gets their move. I don't know about Order or about Chaoses.
Well, let me say this. Yeah. If the sub-faction ones are in play for any reason, that blood tithe is just going to be shooting through the roof. Because if it's every individual guy that dies gives you a blood tithe point, oh boy. Kelly.
Let the blood flow.
Yeah, Corn is going to be pleased today. You're just going to have tithe falling out of your ears.
Yeah, that's true. Let's see, what else? Let's see my notes. It's normal War Scrolls. As we said that, like all the normal stuff. We talked about the spells. They said multiple new command abilities, but they didn't actually explain what that meant. So this is why I said like it wasn't real clear what was going on with the command abilities. I wonder, Vince, if they did something like what we did with Mordheim, where they made a list of generic command abilities. So like when you make your warband, you ignore the command ability on whatever's on the sheet, and then you choose one of 5 command abilities for death or for chaos or whatever. Like I'm wondering if they went that route.
It could be because they did confirm there are multiple new command abilities.
New
so
command
it's
abilities,
possible. Yeah. Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
Sorry, is it also possible they're doing like battle plan specific?
Oh yeah, sure.
It's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Certainly could be.
So they do that a lot with or most of the battle plans in the book have their own command ability. So that's another possibility.
Yeah, and if you look at it, like Inspiring Presence was always that. Like that was just a one command ability you gain in addition to your normal one. And so they could very easily say like everybody gains X or everybody gains Y or whatever, or you could do the like if you're this you gain this, if you're like that's the battle plan tied. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what they do with it. There's a lot of opportunity there, is what I would say. They ran through a whole bunch of models that were in there. Blight Kings are in there. Goblin Scrap Launcher is in there. There are ogres that are in there. There are
which implies like certainly the chariots and stuff are in there.
Chariots are in there because they ran. That's what I paid attention to. The Slaanesh list. I listened real close, and all of the cav were in there. All of the chariots were in there. All of your foot people were in there for Slaanesh.
Sure, I'm sure no fiends.
No,
those were the old crappy metal anteater models.
No fiends. What are some other surprising things? Varangard.
Who are going to be like 15 points apiece, probably?
Oh, no, they're 20. They said that a Varangard is 20 points.
Ah, okay, sure. So you can have like a Varangard.
For his 5 wound, for that 5 wound cav beast of a model that can't activate any of his Archeon abilities.
Sure. So you get like a Hero 2 in the Varangard, basically, Mr. Hero equivalent, and then like 5 Marauders.
No, they're probably Marauders, probably 1 point, so 10 Marauders.
I bet they're not. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
I'll bet they're 1. I'll bet Marauders are 1. I'm telling you, if Plague Bearers are 2 points, you can bet your ass I'm going to show up with 15 of them.
Sure.
Okay. What else?
Battle Shock. You haven't talked about the way Battle Shock.
Oh yeah, so Battle Shock. Let me talk about Battle Shock. So this is one of the mechanics that did change, and this was a genius way to solve the morale problem of like routing and stuff like that from old Mordheim. Vince and I solved this one way. I really like what they ended up doing, and so how they do Battle Shock is that you take a Battle Shock as your force. It's not clear what number you're checking against. I'm guessing it's your general.
Probably.
I think you check against your general's Battle Shock. And if you fail Battle Shock, that number of models from your warband run.
Yep.
It also wasn't clear about which models would run. So I think you
got to pick.
You got to pick whichever model you like.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like to me, is that if and when it happened, you picked who ran. Because I thought I heard Rob talk about how there's a strategic element of like choosing which ones you need to stay and go, based on placement and stuff like that. So I don't know. But yeah,
you had like in your list, you had like a hero and then 2 really elite models like Blight Kings, and you had a bunch of Marauders, and you shot off 6 Marauders, and they took a Battle Shock test and rolled really high, and maybe you had to take off your Blight Kings because of the more. There's a really interesting buffering element of you don't want to take too many crap troops because your bigger troops might suffer through Battle Shock. Yeah.
No, it's an excellent point. It's a really neat mechanic, and it really pushes the idea of what do you need to do with Battle Shock, how you need to. But at the same time, I'm wondering if it will pick winners and losers, just from a game mechanic standpoint. And what I mean by that is I wonder if it will inappropriately make death units and demon units and lizardmen units really strong
because they're main guys.
They're always at 10.
Right.
They're just not going to flee, because you would have to lose how many models? 5 models in a round in order to even have a shot of losing somebody.
Sure.
And so it's just Battle Shock's not a thing for those forces. Where for like a destruction force, like even an Iron Jaws force, let me tell you, like you need to worry about those brutes running away, and even your Ard boys, like that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, sure.
So I hope they really think about that and take a look at that, because that mechanically could be an issue. So the first mission they did was seize the relic.
Well, also say, let me just say, like, it'll also be interesting to see how it interacts with those kinds of troops, because to be fair, a lot of like Death's powerhouses in their troops does rely on hitting that model count that'll be more or less impossible to hit.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Like, you're never
like,
going to put those
how's
20
the standard
skeletons
bearer
on the
gonna work?
table.
It doesn't matter if you put a standard bearer down. Is he resurrecting a D6 models every round?
It's a good point. One would certainly hope not. That's going to get insane fast.
That's going to be an issue. How about those Black Knights come rolling onto the table with like 2 wounds each, with a standard bearer restoring a D3 models?
Right.
That might be a problem. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they solve these rules issues. My guess is they're just going to shut everything off. You can never restore models here. That's what I'm guessing.
Right. That would be sort of the sensible way to go about it, frankly.
Yeah, like you can never summon, you can never restore. You only get to play with what you buy.
Like, because you're in the city of Shadespire, it's closed off, and anybody who dies, Nagash claims, and blah, blah, blah,
yes,
blah, blah.
That's my guess. If I were to take a guess as to how they will run the numbers, that's how they'll do it. Sure. Now, they may not. They may allow it, and then it just makes Death really good. But we'll see. We talked about how all units models move as independents. Warbands must be of the same Grand Alliance. You can divide attacks. None of that's really surprising. We talked about unit composition. So you get 2 upgrades in the post-game. In the post-game experience, if you win, you gain 10 renown. You start with 50 to build your warband, and you're going to add 10 more if you win. If you lose, you're going to add 6 more.
Okay. Yep.
So immediately you're going to look at this and go, well, that's just going to create a death spiral. The winner's going to keep winning. He's going to get more models. The loser's going to keep losing. So the difference is that you're also going to roll dice. If you win, you roll 3d6. If you lose, you roll 2d6.
And you take the best 2 of the 3d6 to be clear.
And on the 3d6, correct. You take the best 2. So you get to choose what combination of 2 dice you want as the winner.
Yes, you have post-game Swift Stride.
Yes, you have post-game Swift Stride. That's exactly right. And so what this ends up meaning is that then you look at this chart based on what you rolled, and it will tell you what you gain. Right. And like sometimes it's going to be like some extra renown, sometimes it's going to be some items or whatever. Now, what was fascinating about this was that Ben Johnson won the first game, rolled, and ended up walking away with only 1 additional renown. So he ended up having 11 renown. Bottle, who lost the first game, started with 6, but rolled really well, and ended up having 12 additional renown to build his force. So the person who lost actually had more renown going into the second game to build their force out of.
Which I wouldn't imagine is the common outcome, but I bet it's the entirely possible outcome. Because I mean, you know, I've beat 3d6 best 2 on 2d6 plenty of times. Every time I ever caught a fleeing unit in 8th edition, right? That was Swift Stride when I wasn't. So it's not like it's that outside the box.
Yeah, and we don't know what the combinations are, because that's another thing. Is it may not just be like who rolls higher. It could also be like you can choose either like a 7 or a 2 result. Like it may just be based on like a chart of what the results are. So we don't really know how that ends up breaking down. Right. And so you may have to make the decision: do you want extra points to build your force out of, or do you want a free magical item? Like those may be decisions that you have to make in this kind of process. Which again, that's all just ripe for development. Of like expanding the charts and adding more options and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of anything else that was big.
I mean, I think you covered most of the core stuff. There's a box set coming, like a full-on box set.
No, there's not. No, there's not. No, the full-on box set was just the 4 miniature sets that are coming this weekend.
Oh, I thought they were actually going to roll it all up as well.
No, they're not. No,
Okay.
it's the book, and then they're offering like these warband box sets, the 4
Okay.
warband box sets.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there is not a box with like terrain or anything else like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
Nope.
I heard wrong on that. No, I think you covered most of the big ones, more or less everything that we got spoiled today, I think. I will say it feels Frostgrave-ish because you're probably because most of these probably have one hero just based on the points differential.
Right? Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to do a second hero, you'd have like 10 points to build.
Yeah,
like you might be able to get to like a second hero in later games, maybe.
Right. And traditionally, Frostgrave was sort of built around, like your wizard, and then you had your little secondary hero, and then dudes, more or less. That's not exactly accurate, but it's kind of the core concept. So to me, as I said at the top, or as I said a little while back, this is a fantastic foundation. That's what I looked at this as, right? Now, whether the community expands it, obviously we're going to write some stuff, but beyond that, I think this is ripe for expansion. You know what I mean? Like, this is the foundational elements. So much of what I loved about Mordheim ended up becoming more or less community-driven stuff. Scenarios, when the town crier got taken over more or less as a community effort, that kind of thing. So I think that this is exactly the kind of thing because it puts it out there, and then all we need is the foundation to popularize it. And then from there, the community can run with it. You know what I mean? Because it would be hard for any like core set of rules to gain traction. This does that. This lays down the popular base, and then everybody can just build on it. Rob, I mean, what do you think overall? Excited? What are your thoughts, sort of after all this? What's your thoughts about it?
Well, I can't wait to play it. To be honest with you, I've again, like, Mordheim was a game that got me out of a massive hobby slump, so I've kind of always got a soft spot in my heart for it. And Age of Sigmar is one of the best war games I've ever played. So mixing the two together kind of feels like a pretty decent move. And I've got enough stuff that I can create a bunch of different war bands and try a bunch of different things, play campaigns. Yeah, it'd be great.
Totally agree. I agree on all of the points you just said, as a matter of fact. Yes, like, Mordheim has pulled me out of two different hobby slumps in my life. Like, originally when it came out, and then some years back. Your
current Warhammer kick started as Mordheim.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It brought me back to, like, in a big way to the game. Like, because before I got really back into Mordheim, we'd play a game every so often, but it just, it wasn't regular. It wasn't on my full radar, but then all of a sudden it just happened one day. Somebody was like, let's play some Mordheim. And the addiction just began anew, baby. So that's what it does. It pulls you back in. So that being said, I'm very keen to see additional war bands get sort of released as nice box sets. I think that would be fantastic. Let's see some more great savings box sets. Like I said, I would love to see them make some of and it seems like a win for them too, because how many of those old kits are they selling right now? It can't be that many, right? Like, I can't imagine they're selling a lot of Dragon Princes right now. But you could take like some Dragon Princes and some elf noble character guy and whatever, and boom, you're good to go. Like, obviously you can't do the guy on dragon, but whatever.
No, but you could do the elf noble, like the knight, the mounted one, and the standard bearer, like one on foot, one on horse, and easily sell that.
Yep, exactly. Like, it seems like a great way to move some of those old kits too.
Yep.
And to bring back the people who have, like, there are a lot of people with a lot of love for a lot of those armies. This makes them eminently playable regardless of their position in the larger meta, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Makes me sad I sold all my squigs.
Never sell squigs. That's number one. That's number one rule in life. Never sell squigs. Ever. Always keep your squigs. Those things are like gold. They're just, you don't get rid of them. You bury them out in the yard. That's what you do with them. And hope that more squigs grow. They are a fungus. So, there you go. Got to get them wet in a dry place out of the sun. All right. So I think that covers more or less everything Skirmish. I agree. Super excited. I'm definitely can't wait to see what goes on here as far as both dig into the rules, get some new stuff. I'm really interested to see what the community does with it beyond we do, and I'm interested to see what GW does with it. It's small enough that a lot of people can pivot in a lot of directions, and you'll be able to play a lot of good quick games. So number one chore to me, like right away, seems to be crack out some more multiplayer scenarios. Yeah, get the multiplayer scenarios cooking, because what I want is not a 2-player game. Like, don't get me wrong, I like 2-player.
Like, give me a 3 to 4 player. Exactly,
that's the magic right there. Like 4-player Chaos Ball Mordheim is just the best thing in the world. It is as good as crushing your enemies and driving them before you and hearing the lamentation of their women. It's right up there. 4-player Mordheim. That was in the original Conan script. They cut it out. I don't know if you knew that. That's true. You can find that on the IMDb.
It was a GW lawsuit.
Right. They had to take it out. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So I think we've pretty much got to the bottom of this one. Obviously, we want to know if you're excited for Skirmish. What warbands do you want to see them box up? Drop it down there in the comments. Rob, any final thoughts before we close out for the evening, sir?
Nah, just get on Skirmish. It'd be great.
That's right. I agree. Yeah, I totally agree. Well, Rob, thank you very much for coming on, for exploring Skirmish with us. You are welcome back. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for staying up. You're welcome back anytime, and next time we'll do it at a much more nicer time to you, so you don't have to be up till 3:30 in the morning. You are a trooper, sir. Absolutely.
It's fine.
So, to all of you out there, thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate it. And as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.